What's the worst punishment you ever received as a child? Probably when my mom spanked me with the back of her favorite hairbrush. Then the hairbrush broke and I got spanked some more because that was her favorite hairbrush. When I was young and taking interest in girls, my parents made a rule with no girls over at the house alone with me, even to study all doors open, no locks. This all happened after I got caught in a compromising situation with my girlfriend at church. Went on like that for a while until I was 14 to 15. A friend of mine who was on the weightlifting team was over at my house one day. He was changing in my room and my parents walked in with him in his boxers and me sitting on my bed. I still remember that moment. They both paused, looked at each other, and it got weird for a couple days. When they finally said something, it was very positive towards me seeing women. Got a lock on my door and girls were very welcome in the house alone with me. Even got a few "why don't you ever bring that one girl around more often?" My parents really didn't want me to be gay. I grew up with my grandma and I can't exactly remember what I did, but next thing I know she's laying a pile of uncooked rice in the corner to kneel on for 10 minutes. It felt like I was kneeling in a gravel driveway with shard rocks. Forgot about the time she threw me outside in the snow in my boxers and locked the door. I was 8. I've heard of this one at least. I saw it in a Law & Order episode. The kids had scars all over their legs and what appeared to be grains of rice embedded in their knees. Looked pretty brutal. Did Stadler angrily skirt the edges of the law to bring the perp to justice? Ice-T could not believe there were people that would do this. You mean like when parents make their kids kneel down on little grains of rice? Yeah, guys, you get it? Damn kids playing too many scratchy lotteries. Definitely the buck rag. I still feel sick thinking about it. For those who don't know, a buck rag is a rag that's been rubbed all over a male goat and rugged. It's used for some goat breeding purposes. Lady goats love the smell. In our town, some parents would buy these rags from goat farmers to punish children for misbehaving. You take the child out back, pull the rag out of the jar, drape it over the child's face, and tie a knot in the back. It's not dangerous, but it makes them smell the horrible goat odor. I never saw what the big deal was until I was buck ragged as a 16-year-old girl for cursing out my parents. I puked. A lot. 7 years old. I wouldn't move my hands from my butt, so my mom dragged me to the bathroom. While there, she lifted me up by my legs and attempted to give me a swirly. My hands immediately latched onto the toilet bowl to stop my head from falling in. Then my mom freed up one of her hands to turn my eyes red. After a few hits, my arms gave out and my head dropped hard into the toilet water. After that, she yelled at me for 5 more minutes and ordered me to take a shower. She still denies doing this or any of the other corporal punishment my sister and I were subjected to. Probably getting strangled by my dad after I stormed away from the dinner table while yelling that I hated eating with my parents because all they did was yell and curse at one another. Strangling sucks. Around the time I was 12 or 13, my stepdad strangled me with my little cousins downstairs simply because I was annoying him. I honestly thought I was going to die. He did a lot of shitty things, but that was the worst. My dad once told me that if I let the word shit cross my lips again, I'd truly have shit cross my lips. I didn't listen and said it again that night, and he took a piece of fresh dog poop and made me hold it on my tongue for 30 seconds. I cried and never cursed again until I was 21. I got the wooden spoon a lot, and once my mom was so angry, not particularly at me, just in general, which is more messed up, that she threw a porcelain teapot at the back of my head while I was going down the stairs. But the scariest beating I saw happened to my best friend in high school. We were supposed to be having a sleepover at her house, but instead we went out and partied till 3 a.m. When we got to her house, her dad was up. I'm pretty sure he was drunk, and he was pissed. He beat her with a field hockey stick for what seemed like forever. She was in bad shape. Suffice to say, I never slept over there again. Edit. For everyone asking if I called the cops or reported her dad, two things. I was 15 and never experienced anything like that in my life. I was definitely in shock and scared for my life as this was unfolding. Obviously, that's not an excuse. I later mentioned to her that I was thinking about telling someone, but she begged me not to as her mom was not in the picture and she was the only one taking care of her younger brother and did not want to be separated from him. She moved out with her brother as soon as we graduated high school. My cousin has her wooden spoon on her wall to remind her, never again. She never beat her kids, but they know all about the wooden spoon. Also had a similar experience with a friend, except I was in vacation with them. We got caught smoking cigarettes. Her father beat the shit out of her with a belt, then locked us in separate rooms for 3 days. We were like 13. Jesus Christ, I forgot about that. Nothing like Reddit to bring up suppressed memories. I'm sorry you went through that. Did you ever tell your parents? Therapy time. Eddie not till years after. Either the cigarette burns to my scalp or the days without food because I misbehaved. My parents were, and still are, meth addicts. Duck them. Geez, I hope you don't have to deal with them anymore. I cut them off years ago. My mother occasionally sends me a text message saying happy birthday, I love you. And I'm wondering if she's sober since she got the date right this year. My dad, well, I haven't talked to him in 15 years. He came into a place I used to work a few years back and stood about 3 feet away from me and didn't even recognize me. So I guess that's a win. My stepbrother punched me in the face and gave me a bloody lip. My stepmother decided as a punishment she would hit us both with a belt. I don't know why I was in trouble for getting punched, but she held onto the end of the belt with the holes and swung the belt buckle at us. It hit the back of my right hand and I still feel the pain in the back of my hand when I squeeze something with it. I got punished for getting punched in the face. I still don't understand what I did wrong 23 years later. Hands tied behind my back with a belt so I couldn't cover myself, and then beat about the face, neck, and shoulders with another belt for several minutes. Dad was a real piece of shit. Edit, thanks for the kind words. Life got better. Not me, but my son actually. He is a little fella. As are his mother and myself. She would force him to drink nothing but Pediasure with every meal and go ballistic when he would not be able to finish the terrible frozen meal she made him. She sent a message to me saying he was hiding food he didn't want to eat and that she beat his ass and I should expect bruising. The next day my father picks him up and dropped him off to my girlfriend at our house. After dinner she went to put him in the shower and was horrified at what she saw. Imagine a tiny 7-year-old boy with a completely bruised ass. And I mean deep purple, yellow, and green bruises. She called me immediately. I rushed home from work, calling the police on my way. A sergeant from my local PD was very helpful and supportive to my little boy. Told me what to file and how to file it and that I should rush to Children's Hospital. He also called his lifelong best friend who is a captain in the town where my ex-wife lives. Within 2 weeks I had full emergency custody and she had domestic violence charges. Fast forward a year and I'm a sole custodial parent and my son is thriving. He has gained almost 20 pounds, can now ride a bike without training wheels. He could not ride one at all when we took custody. Good food, positive attention, and lots of love have helped him grow tremendously. Well done. Your son is lucky to have you. I was driven about 30 minutes outside of my city to an isolated, large, and creepy-looking building, which I was told was an orphanage. I was given the choice of telling the truth and admitting to something I had not done or being left there. I am 38 and still think about this, from time to time. Update, not to excuse what they did, but my mom and dad both had terrible upbringings with abusive parents. My dad was full of anger and my mom was rather weak and full of shame. I started therapy about 5 years ago and was reaching a point where I was going to decide whether to confront my parents with how I felt about my childhood, or cut them from my life. Then my dad died. With his death, a lot of my own anger about how they'd behaved went. I've been able to be the bigger person with my mom, and set her a better example of how to behave, including how I expect her to behave towards me. Our relationship is stronger than it has ever been, and I don't dwell on this event in the same way I used to be hurt thinking about it. Now I see it as the reactions of angry and scared people to a situation they couldn't control, and resolve to do better myself. My dad always told my brother and I that he was going to have CPS take us away because he hated us. Gotta love those long-term crippling fears of abandonment.